Welcome back to our series on Bach's Orgelbüchlein. Today we're looking at one of the Passiontide chorales, Christe, Lamm Gottes. This takes the form of a canon at 1 bar apart and 1.5 octave interval between the right hand and the left hand. This interval serves to highlight the modal nature of the chorale melody, which means that the piece ends rather improbably on the supertonic chord. The piece starts with a 3-bar introduction, which is rather unusual for Orgelbüchlein, so the chorale doesn't actually begin until bar 4. That introduction looks as though it's going to be a canon of its own. It's got descending scales in the 3 separate parts, and that scale pattern forms then the figuration which accompanies the chorale in the rest of the piece, in all the voices. So it's a very unified piece in a lot of ways. It's marked in the score as being for 2 manuals, and that is not for practical reasons. You can play the piece perfectly comfortably, perfectly happily on 1 manual. So therefore, Bach must be intending the 2 manuals to be slightly contrasting in order to bring out the fact that it's a canon. So a simple piece of logic says that the registration of the 2 manuals should be slightly different in order to bring out that particular contrast. It's occasionally questioned whether those descending scales should be effectively legato or whether we should slightly emphasize the pairs of quavers in order to emphasize the 3 beats in the bar. That's a good question. I discussed it recently with a very experienced postgraduate student who felt quite strongly that it should be legato, that the scales function best like that, and I think that I agree with that, so that's what I'll recommend today. The hymn, by the way, if you can call it that, is not the usual kind of umpteen-verse poetic text. It is a key piece of liturgy, the piece which says, "Jesus, Lamb of God, who takes away the sins of the world, have mercy on us." And that's, I think, a prime example of why it's so important to know what the text is. Because when we know that, it will inform to such a great extent the kind of sound and the kind of tempo and the kind of feel that we put into it when we play this particular piece.